All right, I'd like to call the May meeting to order for the BZA. Liz, will you take us through the roll call, please?
Here.
Here.
Mr. Justice. Mr. Jacobs. Mr.
Here.
All right, thank you. If we'll rise for the pledge, please. All right, I need a motion from the board here to approve the meeting agenda.
I will make a motion to approve the May 30, 2024 meeting agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Has the board had an opportunity to look over last month's meeting minutes? And do you have any comments, questions? Okay, then I'm looking for a motion to approve April's meeting minutes.
I'll move to approve the minutes for the 2024 meeting as presented.
All right, second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that is approved. All right, we have new business. We have just one case tonight, and it's 712 West Broadway Street for a special exception. Adam, could you give us the presentation, please?
All right, good evening. For the record, I'm Adam Zaklakowski, the Planning and Building Director for the town of Fortville. This case before you tonight is a special exception request at 712 West Broadway. The petitioner is Christian Badger of Badger Engineering, and the owner is TFG Properties LLC, and representatives are here tonight. The zoning on the property is CN, standing for commercial neighborhood, and the size of the property is about 4 acres. The current use of the property is really heavy commercial truck repair. It's also used as a contractor's office, I believe. And there's also a residential rental home, a brick home, on the property as well. Hold on one second. Just a minute here. Okay. So the request in the background on this particular case is that the town's code enforcement discovered that a remodel of an existing building was occurring without a permit. And the building was being remodeled for a heavy truck repair shop. And upon review of the zoning ordinance, it was discovered that truck service is not allowed in the CN zoning district. The owner sought a rezone of the property to industrial light, but received an unfavorable recommendation from the Plan Commission and subsequently withdrew the request. The owner wants to have the ability to use the finished space for a legal use. That recently finished space is about 2,400 square feet. And since heavy truck repair would likely not be allowed, they now propose using the space for a contractor's warehouse, which, as defined by the zoning ordinance, can be allowed in the CN zoning district, but it needs approval of a special exception by the BZA. And a contractor's warehouse includes storage of items for contractors dealing in HVAC, plumbing, electrical, etc. And lastly, no tenant for this space has been secured. If the special exception is granted by the BZA, the owner can then allow renters who specialize in such trades that have storage needs. So if we take a look at the aerial photo, the parcel map, you can see the parcel in question with the two main buildings there on the property. Off to the northeast, this is Secured Tech Solutions. There's an empty field in this area to the east of this property. It's also owned by the same ownership, but they're not making any adjustments to the use of that land as part of this. And then off to the west, there's kind of another storage facility. And if we take a look at the oblique aerial, you can see a little bit more detail on the property, and we can always refer back to these as need be. Taking a quick look at the zoning map, you can see that it's zone CN, as is much of the properties in this area. There are a few light industrial pieces over here, and then directly to the east, there are a couple of grandfathered properties that are zone B-1, which is very similar to commercial neighborhood. And then lastly, to the south, there's some farmland in unincorporated Hancock County that's zoned R1.0 for the county's zoning. So we take a look at the site conditions. You can see this would be looking north from the front of the property towards Broadway, of course, and cycling through here. You can see the main building that is out in front, and then there are these other buildings behind that. And in that center area, this was the building in particular that's a part of this request. That's the 2,400 square foot building. And then in the back, here are some vehicles that they had associated with the heavy truck repair. There was a site plan or a floor plan that was put together by the engineer that really accompanied the previous request, but a lot of the information is still relevant. Mainly, you can see how the buildings are being used today. There's an office building out in front, vehicle repair, stone cutters, that's a contractor, and then some storage buildings on the east side of the property. Of note, and we'll talk about this briefly in a moment, is they had also contemplated at one point doing an asphalt driveway and upgrading the landscaping on the property as well. In terms of the community response, all the public hearing requirements have been met. That included a sign posting by the town on the property, mailing by the petitioner to nearby property owners, and a newspaper, a legal advertisement that was published in the Greenfield Reporter. And Mark Presley, the owner of the Moondrops Distillery, just a few parcels to the west, has expressed concerns about the overall condition of the property and maintenance issues. Haven't heard from him one way or the other as part of this particular updated request. So in terms of the staff analysis, the suggested findings and the approval criteria, we'll run through these. These are the items that are mentioned in state law for you to consider as part of your approval, if you were inclined. So the first one is the special exception is listed in the zoning ordinance. That is the case. Number two, the special exception can be served with adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities. Again, for a contractor's warehouse, no particular issues with that. Third item, the special exception shall not involve any element or cause any condition that may be dangerous, injurious, or noxious to any other property or persons, and shall comply with the development standards of the zoning ordinance. Again, from a staff perspective, there doesn't seem to be any issues with a contractor's warehouse in that building on this point. Fourth item is the special exception is sorted, oriented, and landscaped to produce a harmonious relationship of buildings and grounds to adjacent buildings and properties. For this particular item, I'm suggesting an approval condition, which we'll get to in a moment. And then the last few items, number 5, the special exception provides a total visual impression and environment which is consistent with the environment of the neighborhood. Number 6, the special exception organizes vehicular access and parking to minimize traffic congestion. And then lastly, the special exception preserves the purpose of the zoning ordinance. So with that, my recommendation would be to approve subject to the following conditions. Now, we always want to note that certainly this is my professional recommendation to you all. You are free to adopt it. You are free to ignore it or to make adjustments as you feel fit. But those 2 conditions that we've proposed would be, number 1, that the front parking and drive area shall be gravelled or paved by November 1st, 2024. The reason for this is, as you can see, it's fairly muddy, especially out in the front part of the site. Because it's technically an existing gravel area, they can maintain that with gravel as an option if they wanted to do that. Or certainly they can pave it if they wanted to do that. So either, in my estimation, would be acceptable. And then secondly, the other condition would be, I'd recommend that landscaping shall be installed in accordance with the site plan by November 1st. As you can see, I'll flip back to this slide here. They had some shrubs, some new trees that were put out there. It is true that over the last 7 years or so that I've been here, we have periodically received complaints about the maintenance of the property. And it does seem that the owners have made some progress on cleaning up the property. Adding landscaping, I think, would show another financial investment in the property, especially along a fairly visible street such as Broadway. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to address those. And as I mentioned, the applicant and the ownership folks group are here as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Adam. Does the board have any questions from Adam at this point? I have a couple. So this is for storage only. They're not selling anything out of it. It's just for contractor warehouse storage.
Correct.
Okay. And can you pull the site plan map up and can point out exactly which building this is?
It is this one.
That one?
The
The third one down?
Third one down.
Okay, I'm just kind of confused on which space it was. Let's see. So if we would choose as a board to put some of these approval conditions on the approval, does this site plan have to be approved? Does it go back to Plan Commission to be approved in any way?
That's a good question. I would say that first, taking a step back, a site plan approval is required by the Plan Commission in circumstances where we have obviously new development. And then if there is major renovations to existing development or major changes to existing development. My estimation would be that if the scope of this is simply a special exception to allow that contractor's warehouse, and it's accompanied by simply putting gravel and maintenance of the property or even paving and adding some landscaping, my opinion is that it would fall under property maintenance type of things rather than a fundamental change in the use of the property.
Okay. So am I to understand that the truck repair that is occurring now will no longer be there? Or is it grandfathered in or what's?
Yeah, I'll let the owner or the rep comment on that, but from the
Okay.
town's perspective, the heavy truck repair that might be happening there now is technically in violation of the zoning ordinance. And so that activity would have to cease.
But is that it's occurring, is it in the unit that's before us
I
tonight?
think nothing's happening in the.
Okay, so really it's kind of off our
kind of
purview tonight. Okay,
Kind of put a pause on everything until they went through these channels. And I should
Okay.
say too, to give it to be fair, is that it is common, not just here, but in other jurisdictions where a code enforcement item can necessitate a board review and action of a use of a development there, whatever it is. And generally speaking, excuse me, them coming to the municipality and going through that process usually puts a pause on a stay on those matters until it goes through the system. So again, that does happen and in this case, they're really complying with trying to set everything straight.
okay, all right. Okay, so do we have any other questions of Adam?
One quick question. Contractor's warehouse, it looked like there's a fairly narrow definition. Is that correct? That it spells out generally what's expected out of a contractor's warehouse. So we've got some scope instead of just a.
Yeah, the term and the use category are both in the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
And it was something that we carried over from Hancock County. Excuse me. And so it specifically spells it out, and I kind of paraphrased it in the slide presentation, but again, it's meant for storage of materials within an enclosed structure for companies that are associated with the construction trades.
Okay.
There's also another related use is a contractor storage yard, which would be if they were going to store material outside. And that would also need a special exception, I believe, but that's not what they've requested here. Everything would be within that enclosed building. And then lastly, the CN zoning is really geared towards retail and towards office. So they're allowed right now to have the types of uses like an electrician's office, if somebody had that there. It's just that the zoning ordinance puts an additional layer of oversight for something like a big warehouse because of the potential for negative impacts to surrounding properties.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we now have time in our agenda for the petitioner. Say and spell your name and how you represent the case, please.
Good evening. My name is Chris Badger with Badger Engineering, and it's CHRISBADGER. And we are located at 9830 Michigan Road, Suite D in Carmel, Indiana, 46032. We do agree with the staff recommendations for those conditions. And right now, we'd love to pave it. We're going to see who we get in there once we have the ability to do that. And so we did get a state release as well for the modification of the building, and it's pending Fortville's approval of your permit to be able to get started back on it. And part of that was this special exception, as well as the site plan that you saw would be done by November 1st. If we do pave it with asphalt, then it would be probably in the spring of that year, because they pretty much close the asphalt plants around the 14th or 15th of November. So, but landscaping, we should be able to get done by November 1st too. So that should be a nice entry. As you come around, you'll see some nice landscaping. So that'll be good. We did show also, I don't know if you did show the possibility to change on that front end of the building. Right now, it's got some big dormers on it, and we really didn't think that was conducive. what I gave the board is a rendering of the proposed building so that it looked a lot better than just those dormers that looks too homey.
Go back.
So we are planning to do some good work with this project, but we're kind of stopped because we really want to get that space that he's already spent a bunch of money on finished. So. But if there are any questions.
Yeah, I do have
do
a
have the
question.
things here. Go ahead.
So, getting your state approval, is that for a change of use of the building or is that just for the special exception to get your CDR?
That was due to a red flag. So your building department put a red flag on it. When I went to look at it, it was not being constructed properly.
Okay,
So we came back and put in firewalls on both ends of that building so that you couldn't have, if somebody,
Right.
at the time we were looking at it, if you were working on a truck, we wouldn't have a fire. It would spread to the next building. But either way, it's still going to have blocks on both ends of the building and it'll be built up like that. So.
okay,
You have a question?
all right.
Yeah.
Please say oh,
There was never a repair shop. The guy who was parking the truck was just doing the maintenance.
Right.
Everybody does to his own car kind of thing.
Correct, but when we were looking at the use for that building, we last time in front of the board.
Right.
went For a heavy truck.
Yeah, we
repair.
changed. It's not anymore.
Exactly, but also there is no heavy truck. There's some parking out there of vehicles, but there's no working on the vehicles.
okay,
So if you saw the heavy vehicles there.
Somebody might fight not to hold and that, but they're.
we're just concerned. Yeah, you need to say and spell your name. No, up at the mic, please. Everything's recorded. I'm sorry.
I'm kind of the honor. I don't need to mention my credential, but I do work for the.
Okay.
Those trucks over there, they're not by we're charging anybody. They are just parked by individual. They might have seen somebody doing oil change, like we all do to our vehicles, but never did any commercial work there. And no plan.
But these trucks really don't have anything to do with this unit that's before
No.
us. Okay, so we don't need,
We're
that's
just-
fine. We don't need that information then because it's nothing that we're going to be ruling on tonight. Okay, all right, just want to make clarification because I know there's a lot of components here on these buildings. So we want to make sure we know what we're talking about. All right, does the board have any questions for the petitioner?
Nothing hazardous gonna be stored there at all.
No, it'd be like if you had PVC pipe, you'd have, for a plumber, you might have some ACs or water conditioners that you're gonna install. And so you keep them there until you have it on a job. So you buy when it's cheap and then you hold it until you can use it. So it's pretty typical. It's a thing that we think would work here, especially with the number of new homes and the remodels in town. So there could be somebody who does, let's say, remodeling, and he might have wood or cabinets, but he would take those and bring those. He wouldn't sell them there, but he would take them from his warehouse to the job site.
And I know this is kind of the cart before the horse because you don't have it leased yet because we've got to go through the process. Are you looking at one tenant or multiple tenant? Would it just be,
Depends on the size of the tenant. If the tenant can use 4 bays, then we would go with 4 bays. If
Okay,
it's
so
the whole thing.
option of being able to scale if need be on.
Correct. Be a single user in that middle, and then the next unit up to the north would be another user, and then even it could be another user for the front office. So if somebody just needed an office, then that would be the end unit that we just showed you the rendering on.
Do you have any questions?
Quick question on you mentioned that you're amenable to both of the conditions, but
Mhm.
you stated that due to plants closing and, late fall, that it might be spring. So would we, with this condition, it would still need to be gravelled by 11/1
Correct.
and then potentially paved down the road?
Correct.
Okay, just want to verify that. Okay.
That's correct.
I've got a question. So these, and I don't know if you have seen these renderings or not. How does this impact? I mean, will that will go along when he applies for his building permit that goes along with the state CDR? Because if they're adding a porch on it, then it changes I know it sounds silly, but it does change the footprint of that building.
That would change it, but that would be a separate permit. So when we go to face the building, we would apply for.
So you're going to do that at another time?
Correct. But that-
Okay.
We had to come up with something because when we looked at it, we were like,
Okay, all right, that makes
that's
sense.
not a good
So it's
use.
just supplemental.
Do you have any?
So we're
Yeah.
really just dealing with that one unit and I guess the one north of it, but those two
Okay.
units to be able to use.
So again,
It'd still be office, but we
Separate,
come back
okay.
and get, either way, we'd want to remodel it. So that's why it would be a separate permit.
okay, because
We would get
that's,
CDR.
sure. Yeah. Okay. Before I move on to the next piece of this, go ahead and have a seat. We might call you back up. Doubtful, but who knows? We don't have a lot of people here tonight. We have public response. This is for or against this project. I know we don't really have anyone in audience, but is there anyone on Zoom that has a comment? Okay, all right. Just want to make sure. Government officials that want to weigh in on this? Oh, okay, and I'm going to take that as a no. So before we make a motion on this, does the board have any clarification questions for the petitioner or for Adam? Okay. All right, well, I am then looking to our board members to either approve with conditions, or deny the special exception before us.
I will make a motion to approve special exception 02/2024 712 West Broadway Street with two conditions. One being that the front parking and drive area shall be gravelled or paved by 11/1/2024. And the second being that landscaping shall be installed in accordance with the provided site plan by 11/1/2024.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, give us a minute to do our paperwork. Actually, I think we can probably close out the meeting and.
Yeah.
All right, well, I guess that's the only thing on our agenda tonight, so looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
All right, second?
Seconded.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you all for attending.
Thank you
Congratulations.
very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everybody.
Don't
Thank-
forget our
thanks,
paperwork.
Thanks, Amal. Thank you.